What's the greatest gift you ever received? For me, it's Christmas 1989, the Power Glove. It was so bad. But for China, it was a fast-growing, drought-resistant strain of rice from Southeast Asia. Today's illustrative example, Champa Rice. What up, I'm Ben Freeman from freeman-pedia.com, and today we're talking about Champa Rice. But before we get going, the reason I'm doing this, I run a website called freeman-pedia.com where I try to translate AP World History Modern to people like you all around the world. And in May of 2019, the College Board came out with a brand new CED, which is a list of what you need to know and we need to teach you. So like any good website person, I tried to include all this new stuff on my website to help you guys out. And like any good historical researcher, I went to the second biggest search engine on the planet. I went to YouTube. Now for a lot of these topics, there's not a lot of stuff on YouTube for it. Try it. Go up in the search bar, search for Champa Rice. I'll wait. See, there's not a lot of stuff there. There's some quality stuff from Heimler, kind of an overview look at stuff, and there's some surprisingly good recipes, and there's one girl whose high school AP World History class made her sing a song about Champa Rice. Otherwise, there's not really that much stuff there. And it's stuff like this that I run into all the time, where I want to put stuff online that should be there, that there should be historical stuff for you, but it's not there. So it's my job to put that stuff out there, and when I can't find it, I guess from here on out, I'm gonna have to make it. So I've gone through the illustrative examples of the CED. You'll see that on the right side. I've provided a link in the bottom where you can see the CED and what they expect you to know. It's a long thing, but if you get to the meat and potatoes of it, you're going to find a bunch of stuff that's kind of vague, and then there's some illustrative examples on the side. Now, those illustrative examples on the side, like Champa Rice today, aren't easy to find necessarily, so I found 40, and there's just not that much stuff out there on these topics, and it's those illustrative examples that we'll be covering here on Illustrative Examples. It's a terrible name, but it's literally what it is, so deal with it. And so I now throw my hat in the ring with a long line of bald, bearded historians from Thucydides to Heimler. And be sure to stick around at the end because I'm going to throw up a real SAQ and a real LEQ from past AP World History exams that actually deal on this topic specifically. So we'll run through those together so you can actually use your new Champa Rice knowledge for good. But I can't randomly just start talking rice at you, so let's get some context. Contextualization is a big, scary word, and if this is your first AP World History or any AP course, it's going to be a scary word for you, but by the end of this year and by the end of your high school career, you're going to run through a ton of different things, and they all will require you to do contextualization. Contextualization is not just some random thing that I'm doing in this video because I think it's cool. You're going to find it in all the LEQs, you're going to find it in the DBQ. It's something you're going to have to do to establish what you're talking about in your essay. And it's super easy to do. It's not going to take any extra effort on your part. You're basically setting the stage for what you're going to be talking about. In class, I call it the Star Wars crawl. It's that thing at the beginning of the film that pops up and tells you what's going on so you're not randomly thrown into space and have no idea what's going on. You have a little context, hence the name, contextualization. Imagine you just clicked on this video right now and there's some bald, bearded dude sitting there telling you a bunch of stuff about rice. You'd be completely lost and you'd have no idea why rice even matters except for dinner. So, the goal of contextualization is to take the idea of Champa Rice and put it in the global contextualization as to what's going on in this era, in this place, in this region, so that you have some sort of idea what's going on and it's not just randomly thrown at you. That's contextualization. So to contextualize Champa Rice, you need to not just talk about what rice is, but you need to talk about why Champa Rice matters in the time period, why Champa Rice is where it is, why it going from one place to a place just slightly to the north of it is a really, really big deal, and what's going on in that place, what's going on in all the places. You need to put this little gift, this little tributary gift in context to the global picture. Let us know why rice is even being mentioned. I've said rice more today than I've said in my entire life. So why rice? Why now? Why is it important? All right, let's try it. Put 1 minute on the clock. I'm gonna try and do this under a minute. Here we go. All right, ready? The first 2 units of AP World History run from 1200 to 1450, and within that time period, they're expecting you to know a lot about connectivity. Connectivity between regions, connectivity between peoples. The first unit, Global Tapestry, sets it up as kind of a, here's what's going on in all these places. The second unit is networks of exchange, and in the networks of exchange, you kind of start to connect those units together. We're starting in 1200, which means Rome is gone. Byzantines are hanging on, but Rome is gone. Guptan India is gone. Han China is gone. All that classical stuff is gone. You need to start to forget about that. The two new big influences in this era are what I call M&Ms. Muslims and Mongols. And the Muslims and Mongols are going to change the shape of the earth in ways that had never happened to this point. And the reason these two are able to do that is because of these networks of exchange, which is what Unit 2 is all about. But let's zoom in a little closer to East Asia. In East Asia, China is king. China is always king. China is still king. China is a big deal. China is always a big deal. At this point, China is run by the Song dynasty. You can see them here. I know what you're thinking. That's not a very large China. It's not a large China. It's kind of half of China. And it's for that and for many other reasons that they're often overlooked. They're wedged in between the Tang Renaissance China, which is a huge historical point for the Chinese. And on the other side of them is the Mongols. So there's not really much of a spotlight that gets put on them. And so the Song are often overlooked. They're wedged between Renaissance China, the Tang, and the Yuan dynasty, which is, of course, the Mongols. And it's so bad they're actually paying tribute to two other Chinese dynasties that we won't get into here. However, they are still a big enough deal that they accept over 300 different tribute missions during their reign, in which one of those is from a kingdom to the south called the Champa. And the Champa Kingdom brings with them Champa Rice, which will double the population of China within a few decades. Did I do it? Was that a minute? Oh well. Keep your contextualization as short as you can. You only get 1 point for it on the essays. Don't ramble on. I tend to ramble. Okay, enough contextualization, so let's get to the example itself. Everything in East Asia orbits China. Think of China as Jupiter. Everywhere else in the region is completely affected by how China does things, how China trades, what China's belief system, China's wealth, China's invasions, all that stuff is directly affected by China itself. I'm not saying everywhere else is insignificant, but think of all the places in East Asia as moons of China orbiting around. And I'm not saying all of East Asia is unimportant except for China. I mean, let's say that Japan and Korea are like Ganymede, the largest of the Julian moons. Now, of course, it is a moon. However, it is the 9th largest thing in the solar system. So it's not that small. Am I right? Am I right? I went to space camp, so. So anyway, think of Japan and Korea like Ganymede. Still a big deal, but Jupiter's right there, and so that's China, and you always have to deal with China. So let's focus on a lesser moon like Io. Io is still close to Jupiter. It's not very large, but it's still, it's a moon. And for this rambling metaphor, let's just say it's Champa. Champa's a kingdom that lasted from 192 to 1832. That's like almost 7 United Stateses. So that's a long time. It's probably the longest reigning kingdom that you've never heard about. They're located today in what we would call the southern region of Vietnam. Vietnam, historically, for a good chunk of time, is kind of divided in that north-south region, whether it's the Dai Viet to the north or the Champa Kingdom to the south. And you would think that they're so close to China that they would be like super Chinese, like just a mirror copy of China. However, there's a lot of stuff that came in via another global network, right? The networks of exchange from India. Not only do they speak Sanskrit, write in Sanskrit, and the religion of the upper classes is Hinduism, but they also have a strain of rice that came through those trade routes all the way over to Champa from Bangladesh, what we call Bangladesh today, in East India. You know they got that Indian influence, they got that Indian rice from the highlands there. For this story, they're one of the 302 trade missions that visit Song China in this period. But they don't stand out for being one of those 300. They stand out for what they bring with them. They don't bring gold, they don't bring silver, they bring their fast-growing rice to China. And they don't do it just because they want to. They actually have an ulterior motive. What's wrong with Chinese rice? Well, Chinese rice is fine, but Chinese rice is slow. It has about 180 days from planting to harvest. Now, if you know anything about time, 180 days is enough to grow a crop in a year, which is fine, but you only get that one crop, and that's what the Song dynasty is dealing with. The Song dynasty is growing pretty quickly, and to meet this need, they need more food, but you can only get so much food from the rice that they currently have. If you look at the edicts of the first 3 Song emperors, they're all saying, grow more food, grow more food, grow more food, cut down forests, drain some swamps, we need more food, we need more food. So if those edicts are going out and those are getting around, the Champa are definitely hearing those. And it was the 3rd Song emperor, Zhenzong, who received the famous tribute from their tributary state to the south, the Champa. So what's the deal with Champa rice? Well, Champa rice, I already told you, Chinese rice is growing in a 180-day period. Champa rice is growing in a 60-day period. Now, if you do the math there, that's up to 3 times as many crops you can do in just 1 year. Now, if you exacerbate that over time, you're going to have tons of more food for more people to eat, more people can live, and then there's more people in China, more people on the planet. So you're getting more yield. You're getting a strain that is drought resistant, meaning it doesn't need as much water. You're also getting one that's not affected by the amount of daylight. So if you are growing it in those parts of the year where there's not as much sunlight, doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the strain of rice. So I'm sure the Champa were very heartfelt in their love of China and wanting to have China gain in population and feed their starving people. But more realistically, it was because they hated their neighbors to the north, the Dai Viet, and they were constantly fighting with them through history, and so they wanted China to favor them over the Dai Viet. So they gave them the fast-growing rice, like, here, feed your people, and don't forget that it was the Champa that gave you this stuff when the Dai Viet comes crawling, or if we need you to help us against them. Essentially, if you scratch our back, we'll double your population. Deal, deal. That's a nice tributary relationship. You're helping us, and then hopefully you don't kill us. And boy, did it arrive just in time. In the year 1012, there was a huge drought in China. And as you know, in China they have something called the Mandate of Heaven. The Mandate of Heaven states that if the heavens favor the emperor, then China will be going well. And if things are going bad, that means that you're losing the Mandate of Heaven and you're probably about to lose power. And now a drought and famine are going to cause you to lose power. Enter the Champa Rice, all of a sudden it really seems like the Mandate of Heaven is returning. You've found a magical food that can feed us all. Emperor Zhenzong takes that, gets 30,000 bushels of that rice, and has it distributed across China and says, grow it everywhere. And they do. They terrace farm it on the mountains. They double crop it down in the lowlands. It's growing rapidly, and the population of China does double. And luckily it doubled just in time for the Mongols to arrive. So when your teacher's talking about the technological and environmental outcomes of the networks of exchange, Champa Rice is definitely one of those examples you can use. Some would say it's an illustrative example. All right, so you know what Champa Rice is. It's been contextualized, so let's actually see what you can do with this knowledge when it comes to May and you're taking the AP World exam. This is the 2017 exam. So in one of the SAQs, you can see it here, there's a pretty easy opportunity for you to use your Champa Rice knowledge to your advantage. So here it is. Like a lot of things on the AP exam, this thing is a stimulus-based question, so let's look at the stimulus. Here it is. Start at the bottom. You can see who it is. It's some guy, a historian. This was written not long ago, so some guy in relatively current day writing about the past. So here he is. He's talking. He says, the first and most important in the early modern era is the intensified human land use in every world region. Rising human numbers put increasing pressure on the land. Almost invariably, human expansion caused a reduction in the quantity and diversity of vegetation, or to put it in other terms, a reduction in biomass. So he's talking about farming and what farming did to the diversity of the crops. Great. So agriculture was and continues to be the single most important means. Yes, that's where we get our food. Thank you, John F. Richards. But for you, what's important for you, look down at letter B. Identify and explain one historically specific example from the period before 1450 in which humans interacted with the environment in ways very similar to those described in the passage, where people are using one crop to help increase the population, where they are using one strain, it reduces the diversity of the crops because it's the only one they're growing. Champa Rice. But wait, what about the year? Champa Rice arrives in China roughly around 1000. So I know that's before the course starts, but the impact takes a while. So here it says before 1450. So since this is before 1450, you can definitely use Champa Rice as an example here. And if you look at the scoring guide that the College Board gives you, it even says, please talk about Champa Rice here. So you've now used your Champa Rice to get a point on the SAQ. What about an LEQ? This is from the 2019 LEQ. Now you're going to have a choice when it comes to the LEQs, which is nice of them. However, you probably won't think it's nice on that day. So one of the options on the 2019 LEQ was something you could have used your brand new Champa Rice knowledge about. So let's look at it. So this was the last LEQ they gave, considering in 2020 they only did the DBQ because of obviously the pandemic. So this is one of the last examples you would have had of any kind of essay that the College Board is expecting you to write, and it's Champa Rice based. In the period 600 to 1450, hey, wait a minute. That's when the year 1000 is. That's when the Champa Rice stuff. What a perfect time to ask this question. In the year 600 to 1450, trade networks expanded and economic productive capacity increased. That's great. Technological innovations and transfers often contributed to this process. Wonderful. That's a little setup. Then they hit you with the prompt. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent. So how much? A lot, a little. So come up with an argument that says why it is a lot, or why it is a little, or why it doesn't at all. To which technological innovations or transfers led to an increased economic growth in this period. What is something that transferred that led to economic growth, say from the Champa Kingdom to China, which doubled their population because they could farm up to 3 times as much food, which allowed farmers to bring in more wealth and feed their families and have more kids, and those kids then survive? It's Champa Rice. So that's some real world use of Champa Rice. That's 2 in the past 3 years where you could have used this one specific illustrative example, of which there is nothing on YouTube about until today, for you to very quickly be able to look it over and figure out what's going on. What's Champa Rice? Really quickly, oh, it's a fast-growing strain that was tribute paid to the Song Chinese and helped their population grow. All right, thanks for watching. I've been Freeman one last time. I'm gonna try and post these as often as I can to try to fill the holes on the internet where there just isn't stuff for you that's quick enough, simple enough for you to see an illustrative example, figure out what it is, and be able to use it in an essay, in an SAQ, an LAQ, a DBQ, what have you. So click subscribe if you want to get these once I post them. I am a real teacher, so I am able to post these as I can, as quickly as I can. So if you're subscribed, you'll be able to get them right when they come out. Thanks again. Good luck on the exam in May, and I'll see you guys next time.